YouTubes, how we all doing? It's blooming cold today, so I've got my hat on again, and I've got me big gaffer coat on as well. Reese has got his on. So I'll give you a little introduction to the next job we're doing. So it's a BMW 3 Series Touring. Another Alpine White. That's like 3 in a row we've had now, Alpine White. So on this job, a couple of repairs. So we've got repair on the bottom of this door. It's a bit of an awkwardy bit of damage. Reese, could you open the door? Door's locked. So yeah, there's a locked. Yeah, it's locked. There's a crease in the bottom of this door, and the lines a bit in as well. So yeah, that's the bottom of the door. Bit of an awkward one. Top of the skin's bulging out a little bit there, and you can see the inner skin poking through there. So it's going to take a little bit of panel beating and a bit of filler work to sort that out. So yeah, damage there. It's also put a funny little crease on the top of this side skirt. So it sort of squashed that rounded edge, it squashed that flat. So we'll have to get the side skirt off, and it's not quite fitting quite well there. And I think there's just some markings on that dog leg. So yeah, we'll get the side skirt off. And we'll be repairing and painting the side skirt, obviously the door and this quarter panel, and depending on how far the repair area goes, we might be blending into that front door as well, being Alpine White. But it's a really clean, low mileage car, so we'll try and make a real clean, neat job out of it. So first thing we'll do is get the side skirt off and get the door stripped, and then we'll get it up in the air and I'll start repairing that door. Get set up and start repairing that door. So I thought I'd just show you talk you through what I'm going to do to repair this door, to pull it out. So the bottom line's in a fair bit, it's curved in quite a bit, and then the feature line's in across here. The feature line sort of fades out here, and then it's bowed in there because of the tension here. I mean, there's two ways really. I either pull this feature line first, take the tension off, and then do this bottom, or I do the bottom first. I mean, when I do this feature line, that should just pop out above it, up there. I could just whack the bottom of this door, get something straight on there, block of wood and tape off, but there is risk of me squashing and damaging the seam sealer behind, which I don't really want to do. So I'm going to pull it from the front first. So what I'm going to do first, I think, is pull the bottom, just pull the bottom out. So I'll put the eyes on it with the bar through it and pull it that way, and then I'll do the same with the feature line across the top. I'll put the eyes through it and then pull that. It probably doesn't need, you know, it's not a heavy pull, but I just want to get it nice and even. That's almost got that now, and now that dip has gone from there. It may creep back a little bit. There's a little bit of a low spot there, so I'm just going to, while this is under tension, just pin a little bit of that there and then let the tension off and see where it's at. It's almost there. The line is straighter now. It does need a little bit of hammer and dolly underneath, but only slight. That's why I'd rather just pull it from the front, because it's minimal amount of hammering from the back then. I'll cover all the back with tape first, and then just to straighten it up. It's almost there. Right, so I think I've pretty much got that where it needs to be. It's all pretty straight through there. The features all right, it's not too high, and I've chased it out in there a little bit, and that little piece of inner skin, the inner door shell that was poking through, that's all right. But I've just been playing around with this bottom. It's a little bit of an awkward shape. It's sort of from about here, the skin goes down, but then the bottom of the skin bellies out a little bit, and this door's sticking out a little bit proud to this dog leg here, but the other side is just the same. So I sort of got this a bit too straight initially under here, where this bottom lip had gone in. I sort of straightened it a bit too straight, so I've had to sort of mess about with it and put a little bit of a curve in it. It's probably a bit hard to see on there, but I think when you look down it, you think, oh, it's a little bit wobbly still. It doesn't look quite right. But I've compared it to the other side, and the other side looks like that, or similar to it when you look down the bottom of it. I know people are not going to probably look down there, but this is quite critical for the lining up of the side skirt, so that looks even. So it's obviously following the side skirt a little bit. I'll just give you a little look on the other side. When you sort of look down the door, this kicks out a little bit at the bottom there, the door. And then when you look along the line of it, you can sort of see from about here, it sort of curves slightly. It's not completely straight. And then the rest of the door is quite straight. So I think that's near enough now. It's good enough for me to fill. But before I put any filler in it, because I won't be making anything up on that bottom line, just filling the skin, the outer skin. So I'm just going to, Reese has repaired the side skirt now, so we're just going to shove that back on and see what it looks like to the bottom of this door. But I think it's near enough there. It might want a little bit of tapping, but yeah, it's definitely got the curve in it under there. But it does give you, it does throw you a little bit, because you think, oh, it's still wobbly, but I think that's near enough there. We'll see anyway. We'll get the side skirt on and see what it looks like. So with the side skirt on there, I think it's not far off at all. I had to just put a bit more of a bend in the bottom of this door, so I've probably straightened it a little bit too much compared to the other side. But it's it throws you a little bit, because it looks like the door's bent when you look along the line. But it has got a curve through there. So yeah, just tap that edge in a little bit more and made that a bit more curvy along that bottom, and now it sits alright. It's pretty much the same. A little bit kicks out of the bottom of the door there to the dog leg. It's the same on the other side, so that's what I'll go by, the other side. So yeah, the gap looks alright, so I'll get a bit of filler in that and shape that up, and that should be good enough to get in primer then. Right, so that's the 3 Series door all repaired now, and all the paint prep's done. So I'll just go through what we've done and some of the products that I've used as well. So that's the repair, all done. Looks alright, I think. Feels okay anyway, it feels pretty good. So after I pulled that dent out, I put some aerosol epoxy on the bare metal, because I've had a little bit of adhesion problem sometimes on bare metal with this filler. So the filler I used is Evercoat Ranger Ultra, and it's a great filler. It's a little bit different to normal fillers. You can fill quite a substantial depth with it, but it's almost like a finishing filler as well. The way it goes on is quite runny, and the way it rubs really easy, and you have to sort of put it in tight in layers. So you can't just sort of bulk it on there, because it will start moving and you get loads of pinholes in it then. But if you sort of put a coat of it on and put it on there tight and squash it down, and then keep layering it over the top of itself while it's wet, and then build it up like that, and it goes on nice then. So it's a little bit different. It takes a little bit of practice to use that filler, to apply it, but it rubs down really easy. And you get good results with it. I do like it. Like I say, sometimes I've had a little bit of adhesion problem on bare metal, but it may be I haven't let it fully cure. Only occasionally that's happened. It just sort of, you can scrape it back a little bit. So anyway, so the repair's finished in 220 grit, and then I've 240. I guide coat it around it so I can see all my scratches around it that the block's done, and then I 240 all around it and get all those scratches out. So that's in 220. It's sanded with a dual action sander around it with 240, and then the rest of this is prepped with 800 DA for all the blend areas, the blend in this door, the blending up here, the blend on this quarter panel, and then I soft pad with 1000 grit by hand, and then wet scotch all the edges. So we're going up to this feature line on this all the way through. It's a little bit of a soft feature line, but it's only clear coat going up here, so I'll soft edge along here around these recesses. It just saves a lot of, it's not too much hardship doing the tops of these doors, but I would have to go all the way around here. These are a risk of bending when they come off as well. So where it's only clear coat up here, I'll be able to fade that soft edging no problem on there, and I've got plenty of room to blend this colour in this panel and then blend into these adjacent panels. So that's what I'm doing paint wise. That's how I'm going to paint it. And yeah, I'll just go through a couple of things. So the discs that I use, they're made by 3M, and they're sort of like their mid-range, I suppose they are, and they call them like blue box. They're quite a new product actually. So I use all the grits from sort of 80 grit up to 320 grit. I use in these blue ones, which are their mid-range. They've got the same sort of hole pattern as Cubitron discs. They're really good. They're not cheap. They're not the most expensive. The Cubitron 2s are going to be more expensive and obviously a bit better, but these are a good sort of middle ground for these grits. But I find the 500 grit in the blue ones, the hole pattern's completely different, so it doesn't line up on the extraction, so you get a bit of pigtailing with them. They clog up on primer, so I do use the purple ones on the 500 grit. So all the other grits below that I use these blue ones, 3M, and then 500 grit on that. And then soft pads, all the grits that I use are Mipa soft pads. So from 320 up to 1000 grit. So I've got 1000, 600, 800, 500. And then the two fillers that I use, what we've done this job with, which is Rage Ultra by Evercoat. And then for bulkier stuff and bigger repairs, we use Rage Gold. And then from the fine fillers I use Dolphin Glaze U-Pole. And then all my other stuff like Scotch and that, I use Mipa for that. So I thought I'd just give a little explanation of the stuff that I use. and what I've done on this job. So now I'm going to get it in the booth. Oh, as well, we've done the side skirt, obviously. There's a bit of a scuff down here that we repaired, and then the damage up here that we repaired as well. And I've tried it all on and it all lines up okay. So now I'm going to get it in the booth and get that door masked up and get it in primer. Right, so that's the BMW. It's all prepped now, all masked, ready to spray. Paint's all mixed and ready to go as well. So just going to get it degreased and we'll start getting the paint on. Excuse the state of my barnet. I've had my hat on all day, and so I've got hat hair. But I'll just quickly talk you through what I'm putting on with. I've got the same gun for everything. I haven't got a variety of different makes of gun. I just love Sata, and I don't really want to try any other gun, so this is my Basecoat gun, 5500X. It's got a 1.3i setup on it, and I have the fluid control wound in from resistance. I have it wound in about half a turn. I keep the fan full and 2 bar pressure. So with this colour, it's a little bit transparent white. Whites can be a little bit transparent, so it's gonna take 3 coats. First coat always with Mipa, it's like a stabilizing coat, so you put it on quite light, like a half coat, probably a bit less than a half coat, just to see if it picks up any contaminations or anything. If you put the first coat on a bit too wet, it can, like fish eye sometimes, and pick up a little bit of contamination that way. But so it'd be a half coat, and this will want 3 full coats. So I'll put a half coat on, dry that out, put 1 single coat on, dry that out, and then I'll do the usual double coat, and that should be enough. So where it is transparent, in the mix you've got option to put a hardener in it, because if you put sort of more than 3 coats of it on, you can have a bit of a risk of it killing off the clear coat, especially in the winter months. If the paint's a bit cold or whatever, you can have some issues. I've had the odd issue with it when I've had to put more than sort of 2 coats on the job. So now, rule of thumb is I put the activator in it, and that guarantees that the base coat will cure, even though it looks dry and feels dry. Sometimes it might have skinned over a little bit. So I put the activator in it. I put an activator in it, so just 5% hardener, and I also swap out the water thinner, so it's water-based thinner. It's 20% of that goes in Mipa base coat, but they also do an accelerator, which I think it's like a solvent. But if you put you can replace the water with the accelerator, all of it, or you can do like half and half. I do half and half. If you use the accelerator, it's a bit iffy on metallics. It sort of changes it a little bit, the way it applies. So half and half is a good option to do. It just speeds up the drying when you're in the booth, and yeah, because then it's instead of water evaporating out of it, it's got solvent to evaporate. So it may not meet with some legislation, I don't know, but it's an option to put it in there anyway. So I do half and half with the accelerator and the water thinner, so 10% accelerator thinner and 10% water thinner. Right, so I'll get it all degreased now and start putting the paint on. So I left that rolling right through the whole stage of that. So you can see I put a light coat of base on, dried that out. I'm at about 25 degrees when I'm putting it on. Then a second coat, like a normal coat, full coat I suppose. Again, dried that out. I put the booth up to about 30 odd then, but on spray. But it's quite uneconomical to, especially in the cold weather, to put a booth up, turn the temperature right up on the spray cycle, because you're dragging cold air in, so the burner's working really hard and burning a lot of gas to get that air to 30 degrees as it comes in the booth, and then it's being extracted straight out. So I do that, you know, colours like this where I've got to put 3 full coats on, I will do that, turn the booth up for that one, for that first full coat. But now I've done the double coat, it's quite a bit of drying out on that. I let the overspray clear. I put it onto bait then, so then it's more economical at about 45 degrees, because the air's being recycled around. It's not cold air being dragged in, and it's not being dragged straight out. So that's what I do now, put it on bake. Once the temperature gets in there and the warmth starts going in, I'll go with my blowgun then, so it drags all that nice warm air. As the booth's warming up, it drags all that over the base coat then, and pushes it all over the base coat, and I can dry it out quite quick then, and it'll dry properly as well. So that's all the base coat dry now on the 3 Series. So I've mixed up the clear coat I'm using on this job is Mipa CC9, and I'm using it with HS10 hardener, which is their fast hardener, which they call that their winter hardener. And the gun, same gun as normal. I use the same Clearcoat gun on most jobs. It's Satajet 5500X or X5500 Future Edition. It's got a 1.20 setup on it, and I'll have first coat. I'll put it about 2.1 bar, and I'll have the fluid control in 3/4 of a turn from resistance on the trigger for the first coat, so I can get a quick close coat on there and not too wet. And then on the second coat, I turn the pressure down a little bit. I turn it down to about 1.9 bar. BMWs have got sort of quite a bit of a heavy-ish orange peel, so I'll probably turn the pressure would be about 1.9 bar, and I'll probably go about 1/4 of a turn in and try and get a wet coat on there. So it's all ready to go, so I'll get in the booth and get the clear coat on it. Right, so that's the BMW 3 Series all painted. It's come out all right, but I've got a little bit of a run. Just where I put some fade out over this soft edge, just to try and melt it in a little bit. It's just run off the edge there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little bit of a tricky area to sand that out. But it's not very proud. It's just where the fade out stripped and onto the clear coat, so it should sound all right. But obviously it's on a feature line, so I've got to be careful. I've got quite a bit of experience in getting runs out. I've had a fair few over my time, especially in my earlier days. I was forever getting runs, so yeah, I've gained a lot of experience trying to get them out. But I've got this one, I'll show you it. This one thing that I use for getting them out, and they're good, they're handy, and they're called carbon blocks. These are made by Kent. They're really good actually. They're good for certain types of, they're good for runs, they're good for nibbing, but they are a bit square. So they do 3 of them. I'll show you them. So they do an 800 grit, a 1500 and a 3000. They're really good. You get a little sanding block with them as well, so you can shape them. So if you need it to be a bit curved and not so sharp on the edge for sanding in somewhere, they last forever. And yeah, they're a great little thing for flat and polishing. The scratches that these leave, so you block anything. You know, you'd start off with 800. If you can see on that, I've curved one edge of that, so you'd block any nibs or runs or anything you need to block really. You block it with this 800, then you'd go over with the 1500, and then go over with the 3000, and polishes up really easy. You don't get no pigtails, no scoring. The flatting marks come out really well. They're good, but only on flat panels really, on flat bits. If you've got sort of shaped stuff, you've got to be careful that you don't dig the edge in. But they're really good. So yeah, they're called carbon blocks. And they do get you out of sticky situations sometimes with paint imperfections. So yeah, I'm gonna nib that little bit of a run off with 800, this 800 block, and then work through the grades, and then hopefully I'll get it out. What I do is adjust it like in the, where I've done the little soft edge in the handles. There's a little bit of a transition between the paint. It's only subtle, but I just use a 3000 Trizac and just do it by hand. Just tickle the edge of it a little bit, and it blends it in quite well. A 3000 pad. I've done the same on this one. Just give it few gentle little strokes, because it's okay doing soft painting up to feature lines. This is quite a soft feature line, so it's not so good. When they're sharper, it's probably a bit better. But it's quite a rounded one on this, and obviously I've got that little bit of a run. Sometimes I put fade out on the soft edge, and sometimes I don't, and I haven't done it for a while. I've just left them, and I just give them a little nib, not light nib with 2000, whatever creeps up, because you're going to get a bit of paint creep up under the soft edge. It's unavoidable. But I normally give them a little flat down, as long as you don't put too much material up there. You know, it's just a little transition of paint then. So yeah, normally I don't. Sometimes I put fade out on it, and sometimes I don't. But I decided to on this one, and then it caused me a little bit of a run issue on that front door. So sometimes you think you're just better off just to flat it a little bit. So I nib it with a little bit of 2000 across the feature line, because you've got to be super careful that you're not going to burn through there or flat through on that feature line, because the paint's going to be a bit thinner if it's factory paint. And then I go over with a 3000 across the feature line, and then like in these little recesses, 3000 by hand, and I just polish up in there by hand. I won't try and get a little polisher in there or nothing, and they normally blend in alright. So probably the next one I do to a feature line, I'm not going to bother fading it out, but hopefully it's all come out flatted wise. I haven't run the buffer over it yet, but I just have to be really careful that I don't burn through on the edge and just do it light. But with 3000 scratches on there now, it doesn't take a lot of polishing to bring that up. So yeah, done that. There's a few nibs here and there. So they've been flatted out with 2000 grit, and then just run over with the 3000 on the dual action, and then I'll start polishing it up. Right, that's the BMW 3 Series Touring all finished. Everything went okay, it was all alright. I had a couple of small minor issues, but I'll show you the job. Everything blended in okay, and it all come out alright. Colour's pretty decent. And everything went okay up here. I had a little bit of an issue, I had a little bit of a run off of this edge when I put a bit of fade out thinners on it, but that's all flatted out. And it's all that soft edge along that feature line's all blended in nicely, flat and polished in, and you can't feel it or see it. So that all went alright. And the repair on the door was a little bit tricky. But yeah, it all looks alright, I think. it come out all right in the end. But yeah, I had to put a bend back in. I pulled out the bottom lip, and then I sort of had to put it back in a little bit to get it all to tie in. But it all looks okay. It looks fairly straight. Feature line looks fairly straight, and the gapping's okay. So yeah, all went well in the end. Whites can be a little bit tricky sometimes colour wise, but no, I'm quite happy with the match on that, and it's all blended in well. So all in all, it was a fairly decent job to do. So again, of course, bright sunshine today. We've had miserable weather, nice bright sunshine, a bit cold, but I'd rather it be like this. So anyway, again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one. Cheers.